Mayor Jyoti Gondek says one of the biggest challenges during the feeder main break event was communication. Last time Calgary experienced a crisis of this magnitude was the Alberta floods that took place a decade ago in 2013. Benjamin Morgan, crisis communication expert, worked with then Calgary Mayor Naheed Nenshi during the floods. He says there are parallels to be drawn between those two events and how both mayors handled the crises.
At the end of the day, when we're in the midst of a crisis event, we really need to understand the role of the elected officials. And in an ideal state, if you asked really any crisis manager, they would say the elected official role is outside of the Emergency Operations Center. Let us do what we need to do. The elected officials are the voice of the people, right? So they are the ones that are responsible for connecting with their citizens, their community, their constituents, their voters, to make sure that they are receiving the information that they need to. That information should be coming from the communication teams to those electeds, and then from the electeds to their constituents, as well as from the administration teams. You may have seen during the 2013 floods, Naheed Nenshi, we ended up calling it, he would speak to the heart. So his message wasn't, we've re-energized 25% of the power grid. His message was, I was in the community last night and I saw how much you're hurting. Know that we're here for you. And then they would bring the Director of Emergency Management up, who would then talk about, we've re-energized 25% of the energy grid, if you will. That worked very, very well. It was Theodore Roosevelt who said it many, many years ago, and it's people want to know that you care before they care what you know. And so when you upfront messaging with care and empathy, you end up with a greater chance of connecting with your audience. And in many ways, I think Mayor Gondek took that same approach. She took to those 2 daily media briefings, talked from the heart, and then brought up Chief Henry from Calgary Emergency Management Agency and their general managers of infrastructure to talk about the specific details. So in that comparison, I think it worked really well for them.
So you've been in the crisis communication space for a very long time. What does good communication look like in a crisis?
Well, certainly when we talk about crisis and disaster, in our shop we use the language high stress, high concern. So when your audience is feeling highly stressed or highly concerned, we know through research and science that the way in which your brain processes information changes. So when I'm feeling highly stressed, highly concerned, I process information differently. If I don't change my communication approach when I'm talking to somebody who is feeling highly stressed and highly concerned, I have up to an 80% chance of having my message lost. So really effective crisis communications we follow the principles of Dr. Vincent Covello, and that is, in this event, there's so much information to share. It's like you want to bring a whole big plate of food to your audience. Here's everything we have to offer you. But when people are feeling stressed or concerned, it's almost like they've lost their appetite. So we have to spoon feed, just give them short bits of information. We use the magic number 3. So take as much information as you have, put it into pieces of 3 and help your audience digest what they need to do. In many cases, it can just feel overwhelming, and we end up losing a lot of our message through that brain processing when people are feeling stressed or concerned.
Just overall, how do you think the city handled the water crisis? Do you think they did a good job, bad job? How would you rate their handling of the situation?
Hindsight is always 20/20. At the end of the day, I think the communication goals on behalf of the City of Calgary was to get that water use reduced. Right? It was so important that they kept the water reservoirs holding enough water available for structure fires, for health, safety, critical water use. We did see a couple structure fires during that event. And so at the end of the day, if you followed along the timelines, for the most part, that water use came down. So if I objectively look at the communication efforts on behalf of the city, what was the goal? Reduce water use. What was the outcome? Water use was reduced.
While Calgarians did manage to reduce their water consumption and the city didn't run out of water, the break was a harsh wake-up call for municipalities across the country. Ahead, what exactly caused the burst and how likely is it something like this could happen again here in Calgary or in another Canadian city?